Good morning. I am Mr. Beat. Hola, Aaron Pod. Hello, Joint Specialist. Tavastian Tigers here. Hello, Evader Chris. Nabilan. How do I convince my red state that voting Republican caused these gas prices? Well, it's just facts. The Strait of Hormoz is closed, and so supply of oil is down. Most of the oil that's produced in the United States is exported because it's privately owned by giant multinational corporations. It's just supply and demand. I mean, they were supposed to learn that in middle school, but I mean, I don't know. Like, if you can't convince them, then you might not be able to convince them of anything. Sad to say. Hello, Bjork. Hello, Project 454. Duckley? Oh, Adventure Time. That's right. Nice. Hello. Adventure Time? Come on, grab your friends. Good day to you, sir, Quebec. Sien. Hello, T-Lag Pro. I did that stickers. Actually, those are pretty effective. If you want to buy those and put those up at every pump, honestly, that it was pretty effective for Biden. Like, I saw them up at, even though, Biden wasn't really that responsible for gas prices. I made a whole video about this, but Trump, you can make a compelling argument that he is, because he single-handedly got us into this war. He single-handedly did stuff that led to the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. So, it's not that far-fetched. I mean, same with the tariffs. Maybe that video was wrong. I probably need to react to it again and just update it based on everything that's happened with Trump's second term. I mean, anyway, the world is on fire, but we have each other. So let's do this. And if you're new here, I broadcast live on Twitch exclusively every Friday at 9 a.m. Central. I've got a lot to share with you today. World War III, of course. I'm dying. No, I'm not dying. No, I'm fine. I'm in pretty good health, but the world is perhaps dying. World War III. Honestly, most of the world is doing okay. The United States, though, appears to now be on the decline. I think future historians will look back on the 2020s as like, yep, that was the decade. It was a tipping point where China took the lead. I firmly believe that. The more I think about it now, it doesn't mean the United States won't be strong in the future. We're still going to be. I mean, we have huge advantages in terms of geography and demographics and resources alone. I mean, I think the United States will be fine overall. But really, I'm worried. I'm really worried. Most historians are kind of ringing the alarm bells right now. Please live, Mr. Beat, because you'll miss Armageddon, Paul. Oh, boy. I have still not watched the whole. I watched the first episode. I haven't watched the whole series of Ken Burns' New Revolutionary War series. I try to get an interview with Ken Burns. He's really hard to interview, and his people have ignored me. So honestly, I'm kind of done with Ken Burns. As much as he was very influential on me growing up, he's a reason why I became interested in history, why I taught history, why I made history videos, to be honest. But he's kind of out of touch these days. Okay, Tom Tries It is here. We can finally get started. They do. Stickers work. Oh, okay. Yeah. So let's first talk about Mr. Beast. Have you heard of him? He's the biggest YouTuber in the world. And yeah, the reason why I didn't live stream last Friday was because we literally were on our way to North Carolina to meet Mr. Beast. And We did. When I say we, Mrs. Beat and I, Mrs. Beats, I think in the chat. Are you there? Honey. She and our daughters came with us. They were on spring break, so it worked out perfectly. Honestly, we didn't know if this was really going to happen because they kept flaking out. They kept saying, "Oh, we're going to, well, maybe this day," and then I wouldn't hear from them for weeks. But the fact of the matter is, I just want to make sure I'm very transparent about this. There's some stuff I can't tell you because we saw things that would spoil upcoming videos. So, but I will share with you as much as I can. So, Mr. Beast, about 3 years ago, I made a video comparing Mr. Beat and Mr. Beast as a kind of a joke on April Fools. That video was really fun to make, but yeah, he saw that video apparently, and he commented underneath it. I assume that was him, somebody from his team. So that was the first time him and I interacted, and I think before that video, he probably had never heard of me. Again, this was about 3 years ago. Flash forward to last year, and he follows me on Twitter and interacts with me on Twitter, which is pretty wild in itself. But then about 2 months ago, I responded to something he said saying, "Hey, more YouTubers should collaborate." And I responded, "Yeah, like you and I should collaborate." And then, you know, I wasn't expecting anything from that, but he DM'd me that same day saying, "Yeah, I know, seriously, we should collaborate." And so we went back and forth. I ended up getting his phone number, talked to him on the phone for a little bit. That was surreal. And, you know, we were texting back and forth, and then he got his people involved, his people. So, you know, they thought that they were the bee's knees and way more important than some small fry like Mr. Beast. So Beat, like me. I only have 1 million subscribers, not 500 million. So, but you know, I kept checking in with them, like, yeah, let's try to make something work. And we eventually decided we were going to make a history of YouTube video, and he would start off the video pretending like he was me as a gag, and we would interact, and it'd be fun. And we're like, yeah, we could just shoot something real quick in front of a green screen, you know, because that's usually what I do. I film in front of a green screen in my own studio. But yeah, we went back and forth with this team for so long. Finally, like almost the last minute, like a week ago, or I guess a week before we went to North Carolina, his team was like, "Can you do the 14th, March 14th?" And I was like, sure. You know, we kind of we had kept a few days open on purpose. And yeah, they flew us out there. We flew to Raleigh, North Carolina. We drove then from there an hour and a half east to Greenville. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, eastern North Carolina. But Greenville's about the size of Lawrence, where I live, about 100,000 people, not that big. It's a college town, East Carolina University. But that's where Mr. Beast still lives, and he has his giant studio there. He built the world's largest soundstage there. So you could literally film movies there. And he's essentially created like a little version of Hollywood. Giant complex, about 200 acres. There's all kinds of stuff going on. And we got a tour of the place. And then we later met at this Airbnb where Mr. Beast was filming multiple videos. And hold up. Is this true, Tom? Chuck Norris died? Is this real? Chuck Norris can't die. That's not physically possible. What is going on? This can't be true. Chuck Norris can't die. This is from Variety. Oh my gosh. 86 years old. This is posted this morning. Actually, this was posted 15 minutes ago. Chuck Norris, the martial arts champion who became an iconic action star and led the hit series Walker, Texas Ranger, one of my favorite shows ever. Like, I mean, it's so bad it was good type of deal. Has died. He was 86. Norris was hospitalized in Hawaii on Thursday, and his family posted a statement saying he had died Friday morning. As an action star, Norris had a degree of credibility that most others could not match. Not only did he appear opposite the legendary Bruce Lee in 1972 film The Way of the Dragon, but he was a genuine martial arts champion. Okay, is this real? I mean, it is Variety magazine, but yeah, like, can we confirm another source here? Okay, so MSN reported that he was hospitalized the other day. But yeah, this is breaking news here. Wow, I never expected to. Aw. So this is just now. Looks like this is some local affiliate, Fox affiliate. His family confirmed it. Wow. Yeah, I used to love the Chuck Norris memes. I used to put them on the board for my students. Yeah. It is with heavy heart. Can you all see that? It is with heavy hearts that our family shares the sudden passing of our beloved Chuck Norris yesterday morning. While we would like to keep the circumstances private, please know that he was surrounded by his family and was at peace. Well, rest in peace indeed to the legendary Chuck Norris. I will always be a fan of Chuck Norris. The memes alone will live on forever. His memes. I really didn't think he'd ever die. Man. All right, well, back to Mr. Beast. So if you're just joining us, I got to meet Mr. Beast last Saturday, actually. So it was 6 days ago. And like I said, we were at an Airbnb. They just randomly rent Airbnbs around Greenville and to film random videos. We get there, there's a bunch of people there. They're filming multiple videos. There's another promo they're doing for Feastables. And so you got Feastables chocolate bars everywhere. I'm talking boxes and boxes of Feastables. And then we look at the table. There's like wads of cash, like $1,000 of cash in ones just sitting there, because we find out they give that out to a delivery driver a little bit later. And then just people everywhere. So many people work for Mr. Beast now. I imagine he has at least over 1,000 employees. The main two people I was in constant contact with were his two chiefs of staff who work every day of the week. Everybody that works for Mr. Beast is passionate, but they also work their butts off. And yeah, so we were all set up. His team got me a green screen and light set up, and we were waiting for him. My family and I just were chilling. We didn't know exactly when he would show up. When he did show up, he just kind of like nonchalantly walked in the room, really low key, didn't even say anything. He just like, I was the one who initiated the conversation. Like, oh, hi, I'm Matt Beat, and we chatted. He was really down to earth, really nice to speak with. We immediately got to planning our video collaboration. Probably spoke for about 30 minutes, and then we filmed together for another 30 minutes, so like an hour. And then, he was really good with my daughters. He made sure to include them in the conversation, was asking them questions. Mrs. Beat is pretty shy, so she didn't really say a whole lot to him, but he did talk to her as well. And yeah, my impression was just a nice guy. Everyone else around him, his team, was acting all stuck up and pretentious, but he was not. He was down to earth and like made you feel like, yeah, you deserve to be here. Just trying to act like a normal guy. And so we filmed the video, and then at the end of it, he's like, yeah, you should come out to this filming location we're filming a video for. I can't tell you the details of it, but you could tell his staff was just like, oh, come on, because then they have to kind of babysit us. But we were like, yeah, let's do it. And so we actually saw multiple filming locations around the Greenville area. They have like multiple projects going on. I think 8 videos they're filming all at once right now. It is insane. I posted pictures. Mrs. Beat and we posted our pictures of us meeting the next day. The internet kind of, expectedly went wild. Half of the comments were like, yeah, Mr. Beat, that's really cool. Really supportive. The other half were like, I don't like Mr. Beast. He's a bad person. I was surprised how many negative comments there were about him, saying that he exploits poor people and, he's treated his employees badly, and he's had horrible people work for him. He works for evil, nefarious people, takes, some of his money. You just don't know where it's coming from, yada, yada. So, and, he has like put people in danger through his game shows, because essentially he's mostly a game show host these days. But the way I see it is, and obviously I'm biased, he treated my family and I very well. So that aside, I think that he is a good person who is trying to help people. He's also a brutal capitalist, but that's the system we live in. We have a capitalistic society. Everything revolves around the hustle, making as much money as possible. And he feels like he needs to make as much money as possible to have as much of an impact as possible. I do that to a much lesser extent. I'm trying to earn a living teaching history to as many people as possible. But my main goal has never changed, and that is to spread empathy to as many people as I can around the world, to teach people important lessons, as many people as possible. If I have to trick as many people as possible into learning the important lessons in order to save our species, I will do it. And if sometimes that means I need to have like a rage bait title or clickbait thumbnail, I will do it if it means I can trick more people into learning. I think the end goal for Mr. Beast is kind of the same. Like, he wants to help people. He really does. That doesn't mean he hasn't made mistakes in the process. He would probably admit that. Much of what he has done, he has learned as he's done it. He is not somebody that, he's only ever been a YouTuber. He never had any kind of collegiate training. He doesn't have a business degree, doesn't have a law degree. Everything he just stumbled into. And yeah, like, you could say that he made mistakes, but I think his overall goals have been noble. Still, I think he would fairly accept criticism. So yeah, I think it's okay to like legit call him out when he makes mistakes, but I do think that we need to like have a more nuanced view of somebody like Jimmy Donaldson. That's his real name. Anyway, what are you all saying? The video will come out in a couple of weeks, by the way, our collaboration. I got dry skin coming off my face again. This is probably, it's like, what is going on? My face, ever since I started taking this medication, my skin gets really dry. The criticisms of him are valid from what I can tell. Rex, thanks for sharing. I mean, yeah, like, I think some of them are. There are others who I think have said things that have not been verified, so we have to be careful. But yeah, questionable sponsors. Yeah. At least he's no Logan Paul or Jake Paul, right? Even worse. Did seeing his production inspire me? Yes, it did. Like, just the fact that he does not limit himself. The sky truly is the limit. When we were getting a tour, and we got a tour, not only the whole studio, his like private gym, which we were playing basketball in and lifting weights in just for fun. Yeah, like, he really just tries to go as big as possible. And it's kind of like childlike in a way. Like, most adults are just like, nah, we can't do that. That's too expensive, or that's not safe enough, or we need to, that would That would hurt too many people. He doesn't like. He kind of has that childlike mentality of like, no, like the go big or go home. You know, do it as big as possible despite the consequences. And again, I think he means well, and that's why you, some of this stuff you can forgive it, because like it's not like he wants to hurt people, but he does sometimes have unintended consequences. I think that's what I guess I'm trying to say. Who initiated the collab? Mr. Beast did. Yeah. I mean, I was just kind of half joking on when I responded to him when he tweeted that, but he was the one who actually sent me a DM, and like you could tell, everybody that worked for him was like, "Why are you wasting your time with this guy, this small time YouTuber?" But he did anyway. All right, so that's my Mr. Beast story. I'm gonna probably do a vlog video and the regular history of YouTube video both in the coming weeks. I have to start editing all that. But yeah, anyway, today I'm releasing a video about Henry Box Brown, the slave who mailed himself to freedom. It's just a short, but it's a long short, if that makes sense. And so that's coming out. And then what else? I'm still writing my congressman every day about uncapping the House, even though he finally responded. Might have been one of his interns that responded. And I interviewed Adam Smith yesterday, not the economist. Adam Smith, the politician, represents the 9th Congressional District of Washington State. We talked Iran. So speaking of Iran, that's the next thing we're going to focus on today. Or as some people say, World War III, which I think is hyperbolic. World War III. Although, yes, things are very worrisome right now. I want to really zoom in on the Strait of Hormuz. To me, this is the most fascinating thing about this is like clearly the United States has the most advanced military in human history. The reason why the United States is still a superpower is because of our military just kicking butt and dominating. And so there was never any doubt that the United States could easily just take out Iran if it wanted to. When I say take out Iran, I mean make it so that they were much weaker. I mean, Iran still they can still defend themselves. I think it'd be really difficult to completely take out Iran. I mean, to control them, obviously, it would never be like an Iraq situation where you just try to nation build. It ain't going to happen. But yeah, to me, it is. Okay, so here's the thing about, before we watch this video about the Strait of Hormuz, that's my general thoughts about, just my general thoughts about this war. So I did speak to Adam Smith yesterday, and he kind of shifted my opinion on what's going on. You know, a couple weeks ago, I was like, I don't know why we are fighting this war. It doesn't seem to help us at all. I mean, I guess we're helping Israel. But now I think the reason why we invaded Iran is because we could. I think it was about showing strength and power, hegemony, basically. Like, it's really weird to think about because when we think about ourselves as Americans, we think, oh, we are good. But the fact is, something that we need to really come to terms with is the United States is no longer that beacon of light in the world. We are now viewed negatively by the vast majority of the world. It's because we're the bullies now. We are the bullies. We're the most powerful, and we are basically just attacking weaker countries because we can. Some say, oh, Trump's doing this to distract us from the Epstein files. Maybe that's part of it. He's doing this to raise his approval ratings. Okay, that's probably more part of it. But at the end of the day, we invaded Iran because we could. It's the same reason why we invaded Venezuela. It's the same reason why we're threatening to invade Greenland. The reason why I don't think we did invade Greenland is because NATO was sending forces there and starting to like say, hey, you want to really do this? Well, let's go. Now he's talking about Cuba. So yeah, we're the baddies, we're the bullies, and about 25% of Americans are okay with that. In fact, they brag about being the bullies. They're okay with being the bullies because they think that they're right. Their values are superior to the values of people in other countries. So, and a lot of them, they view things through the lens of religion. Iran is mostly a Muslim country, and most Americans are Christian. And they think that, I mean, many of them even think that Israel is it's going to be where Jesus comes back, you know? And so that's why they're helping Israel, because they legit think that Jesus Christ is coming back and this is supposed to happen. And we have those people in power now in government. So it's a scary time when you have people that believe in things that are probably not going to happen. What do? Yeah, like we saw what happened in the Middle Ages with religious wars. After the Protestant Reformation, you had over 100 years of religious wars throughout Europe where millions of people died. You had the literal 100 years war between England and France, which it was a religious war. So I think in many ways this is also turning into a religious war for Americans are viewing it that way, as Islam versus Christianity / Judaism, because a lot of Christians think that Judaism is needed in order or siding with Israel is needed for Jesus to come back. Like, if you don't believe what I'm saying, look it up. Christian Zionism, look it up. That's insane. But yeah, but if we're just talking about Trump, who is not religious, Trump has never been religious. He's probably an atheist. I would actually argue that it's likely he's an atheist. Trump, he just wants power. And he knows that, yeah, the United States has the most advanced military in the world by far. So he can get away with invading weaker countries. And so that's what he's doing. Eventually, this will be such an unpopular war that Americans will turn against him. That's what, I mean, already they are. Already they freaking are, which that's unheard of. Like, usually when you go to war, right off the bat, you have people that are supportive of war. Just this, how historically it's been. Even Iraq, 65 to 70% approval of the Iraq war when we first invaded in March of 2003. Whereas now it's like 35% approval of this war. I mean, once gas prices hit $5 a gallon, $6 a gallon nationwide, and it's like that until the end of the summer. It's like that until the end of the year. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine how unpopular the Trump administration is going to be? Think about how unpopular now. They're more unpopular now than they've ever been. Think about how unpopular they will be if gas prices are $6 a gallon for 6 months straight. And even if the Strait of Hormoz opens up, gas prices aren't going down right away. It could take months or even years for things to get back to normal. So yeah, like, this is why many others are saying probably Trump is going to try to rig the elections to stay in power, because the way things are going, clearly the Democratic Party is going to have a blue wave midterms. They're going to win not just the House, but the Senate for sure. A third term, maybe. Yeah, I still think that part of him wants to do that. As an atheist, I'm offended by that statement, Mr. Beat. I mean, it's true. Narcissist is himself as his religion might be more accurate. Yeah. Well, I don't know if he cheated in 2024. He was really good at marketing, and it's hard to overcome somebody overcoming an assassination attempt. That alone was the moment I think I was like, oh crap, he might pull this off after all. But people had nostalgia for his first term. Remember, his first term compared to his second term was so much better. So yeah, anyway, let's watch this Strait of Hormuz video by the CBC. I wanted to get the Canadian perspective anyway, so we'll see what this guy has to say. I mean, there's several videos we could have reacted to. And I want to remind you that my friends Alternate History Hub and Real Life Lore, who I've only interacted with a little bit, they have videos from years ago explaining what would happen if the United States invaded Iran. And everything they predicted so far has come true. So it's important. That's why we learn history, we learn geography, we learn geopolitics, we learn economics, because that can hopefully prevent us from making mistakes like the Trump administration is making right now.
Taking the Strait of Hormuz should be easy for the U.S., right? On the one hand, you have the world's most powerful navy, 11 aircraft carrier strike groups backed by hundreds of ships, thousands of planes, tens of thousands of missiles and bombs. And on the other hand, you have this tiny waterway, only tens of kilometers across at its narrowest point, obstructed only by a regime that has been pummeled now by airstrikes for nearly 2 straight weeks with no sign of letting up, fighting for a passage the U.S. desperately wants to reopen because it may just be the most economically important maritime choke point on Earth, with 20% of the world's oil transiting through, and they can't take it? I mean, they sound like they can take it.
We have capabilities that no other nation on Earth has. The mullahs are desperate and scrambling. If Iran does anything to stop the flow of oil within the Strait of Hormuz, they will be hit by the United States of America 20 times harder.
But the flow of oil has largely stopped, and the U.S. hasn't been able to get it going again. And actually, a quick scan of headlines maybe even suggests the opposite is happening. Iran laying mines, international cargo ships in the vicinity being hit, dark smoke pouring into the sky. Why can't the U.S. just take over the Strait of Hormuz and get oil tanker traffic moving again? Well, because it's a lot harder than it sounds. Almost every problem with the U.S. defending the Strait of Hormuz stems from its size and geography. The fact that it's so narrow means there are just 2 designated shipping lanes deep enough to accommodate the world's biggest oil tankers.
Yeah, Real Life Lore made a video about this, I think. Man, it would have been at least 4 years ago. So
that's 1 lane in, 1 lane out, just 3 kilometers wide each and 3 kilometers apart. Now, if you're Iran and you've just threatened to set ablaze any tanker that tries to go through,
attention all ships from now on. All navigating through the Strait of Hormuz is forbidden.
Then you have a very predictable, very tightly confined kill box to work with.
They can hone in very easily on some of those ships trying to navigate those difficult waters. You can't pass a lot of ships through. You can't get ships through there at high velocity.
Oil tankers are big, slow, clunky targets. Through the strait itself, they travel at most at around 20, 30 kilometers an hour. Huge targets on well-known paths would make for a very appealing, very easy ambush.
They provide for like a target-rich environment for the Iranians trying to fire a fired drone.
Almost all attacks benefit for being very close to land from an Iranian point of view. So Iran can use a lot of weapon systems that are short range. So rockets, short range missiles.
Coastal artillery for literally direct fire that's close to inside of Iran and inside of areas where they've hidden artillery, the rounds that could hit from a local distance, but then also from a greater distance further away.
An attack or multiple attacks at once from so close would leave American warships very little time to defend. Typically, when we think about the kinds of munitions Iran has used to attack its Persian Gulf neighbors, we're talking about a transit time of several minutes or even hours for the slowest moving cruise missiles and drones. That's the kind of lead time you'd like to have to reliably shoot them down. But against an attack from so close, the defender in the Strait of Hormuz might have just seconds to react.
You have to detect, track, identify, track, and then intercept a missile, and it goes very, very fast.
And when you think about how many tankers there would be to defend, typical traffic is 3,000 a month? That's 100 a day? That's a challenge.
These are not military ships. These are transport ships. They do not have any
Very
defenses.
slow.
And that's to say nothing of the threat from Iranian airspace.
Iran is launching waves of drones and missiles, while the United States and Israel are scrambling to shoot them down.
Just this morning, 3 ships in the Persian Gulf reported being struck by suspected Iranian drones.
What makes the Strait of Hormuz so risky to transit is that it is within striking distance of one of Iran's most efficient weapons of war. Shahed drones, depending on the model, have a theoretical max range of up to 2,500 kilometers. That's long enough to strike the strait from literally any part of the country, which is devastating when you consider the impact of a 100-pound warhead costing in the tens of thousands of dollars to manufacture, slamming into these hulking, lumbering targets worth potentially hundreds of millions. Just the oil they carry alone, a big chunk of that. This is a big
one ship being worth hundreds of millions of dollars. That's insane.
problem. Then there's the threat from the water.
Iran could use a number of small boats that could perhaps evade detection, at least briefly, use them in combination to overwhelm ships' defenses.
Swarms of drones, mines that are laid, jet skis, small boats that wreak havoc. Think a terrorist attack that would take place on land someplace. Do the same thing. Get close enough to a tanker with a bomb and explode it there, blow a hole in the side of it, sink it. That's really what their capability is right now.
Now, the U.S. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, has continuously minimized whatever is left of Iran's navy.
The Iranian navy is largely no more. So their ability to project any power in that area in a naval sense is diminishing. Diminishing and will be increasingly diminished.
But the experts we spoke to told us it doesn't take much to cause damage.
For Iran to disrupt that, they just have to put 3 mines in there. And once an area is mined, it's never technically unmined. So once you introduce that uncertainty, which is extremely cheap, and it introduces unconfidence in insurance markets and commerce. And so there's a huge cost asymmetry here.
And this begins to touch on another problem for the U.S., which is that it doesn't take many Iranian successes to equal an American loss. One political problem with Trump's war in Iran is that it is unpopular, especially among Democrats, but even among Republicans.
NBC News polling shows a majority of voters disapprove of the president's handling of the situation in Iran.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I have found the explanations lacking.
This happened because Israel wanted it to happen.
6 American families must now lay to rest their sons and daughters. And for what?
So the tolerance for loss, any loss.
The loss of American soldiers now, the death total is now 13, by the way.
Of American military strength, military lives, is extremely low, especially compared to what Iran's leaders can tolerate while still maintaining control of the country.
For the Iranian regime, they see this as existential. And this regime has shown previously that it's willing to kill thousands, perhaps even tens of thousands of its own people to stay in power. On the other hand, in the United States, President Trump hasn't made the case for war to the American people. And of course, if there are casualties, especially heavy casualties on the U.S. side, that's going to decrease popular support as well. Iran may suffer far more damage, but it is certainly willing to suffer more damage than is the United States.
It should go without saying, in conventional open naval combat, the U.S. Navy would absolutely crush Iran's. But that's not what a battle for the Strait of Hormuz would be. And even if the U.S. were to eventually win that fight, whatever winning in this case means, it would only take a few successful strikes from Iran to cost the global economy billions of dollars in damage and to completely shut down commercial shipping if ever it did resume. Because the key thing to remember is that all of those oil tankers sitting around, they're not stuck because they can't go through the strait. They're stuck because they don't want to.
The main obstacle that's keeping ships from traversing the Strait of Hormuz is not weapons or threats or mines or anything else. It's insurance. Insurance companies have been really quickly scaling down the level of insurance they have the kinds of insurance they have, and in some cases, the insurance policy entirely, and just said it will not apply if you traverse through the Strait of Hormuz.
So for the U.S. to take over the strait in such a way that gives the corporations that use it enough confidence to actually do so, it would have to all but destroy Iran's ability to strike from land. It would have to suppress its drone capability, neutralize its naval bases, disarm its mines. Not to mention, the U.S. would have to put its own military assets at risk in the direct line of enemy fire.
So the United
I mean, they could try to take out every single rocket that's on the coast of Iran, both the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. But even then, they have who knows how many more are hidden from view that they don't know about. But yeah, the mines seem to be the biggest concern, because it's just making it so that even if the United States comes out and confirms, no, there's no mines in the Strait of Hormuz, ships are safe to pass through there. The United States government kind of has a history of lying in recent years, especially. You think that companies are going to trust that intel? Are they going to? I mean, they won't want to risk it, even if the United States says that there are no mines. It's perfectly safe. I mean, this is going to be a long-term problem. As long as there's ongoing conflict with Iran, this is going to be a problem. And even after it's resolved, gas prices, like I said earlier, gas prices are not going to go down anytime soon. We're talking months, if not years.
The States has got to create an environment that those ships feel safe. Perhaps there'll be some American flag ones they'll get escorted through, but it's going to take probably weeks more of military operations.
The first phase was decapitation strike, take out the leadership. The next phase
Get a
is
bookshelf, dude. Get a bookshelf.
Missile and drone capability, hitting the launchers, the stockpiles, the facilities, and whatnot. This takes time.
So that's not just a run-of-the-mill naval escort mission. That's large-scale war, requiring, quite possibly, the comprehensive destruction of Iran's armed forces. Meanwhile, if any ship were to sink in the Strait of Hormuz, how do you get it out? How do you free up enough of the lane to make it useful again? What good is a passageway once it's turned into a war zone?
This is a situation where the world is going to learn that this is just too important of a choke point that can never be risked again. And opening it up, should it go down, will take time. And time is money when it comes to moving of natural gas and oil.
The bottom line being, one of the most important waterways in the world is also apparently one of the easiest to disrupt, because Iran, to make good on its threat, never actually needed to control the strait. It only needed to make it too dangerous to use.
Good video there. Good perspective. I think that a few more things about this war. First of all, this is easily the most unpopular war in American history right off the bat. You know, Iraq War was popular when people in the early stages. Vietnam War was popular in the early stages. This is by far the most unpopular war already. It's going to get worse. There's no way this gets better. Gas prices will continue to skyrocket. People will continue to suffer. I've told many people privately, I haven't really said this publicly much, but I've told many people privately, the only way that people are going to turn against Trump that have been supporters of him over the past 10 years is if they experience prolonged suffering. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to see so many people turn against him by the end of the year, which means he will be desperate to cling on to power. And I'm talking about that includes keeping Republicans in Congress. That's why he wants the SAVE Act to pass so much, to suppress the vote. Although if the SAVE Act passes, it will also hurt Republicans. Hello. So I don't even think it would work like they think it would, because a lot of times they don't understand that when they do things to hurt Democrats, they're hurting everyone. So yeah, anyway, there are still people making the argument, unbelievably, there are still people making the argument that it's good that we are going to war with Iran because Iran had a horrible authoritarian regime. They are still saying this. And if you ever hear someone say this, I want you to respond by saying, hey, well, I'm glad that you're against authoritarian regimes, but did you know there are other authoritarian regimes in the world that are also doing horrible things to their own citizens? Did you know, for example, that Russia kills its own citizens if they speak out against the government? Did you know this happens down in Myanmar? Look at that. This is the Freedom House Freedom Map, the score of 4 out of 100, not free. Did you know that one of our biggest allies, Saudi Arabia, also will put you in jail if you speak out against the government? Most of these countries in Central Africa have authoritarian regimes where people have hardly any freedom at all. Did you know there's a country called the United States where they kill their own citizens and they deport their own citizens based on speech? What I just said is true. This actually happened. So what are we going to do? We're going to take out every authoritarian regime in the world. Is that what we're going to do? Because that means we have to take out our own regime. So, because the United States government is clearly on a path towards authoritarianism right now. So if you ever hear someone say that, just you might tell them that, hey, there's a few other countries in the world that have brutal authoritarian regimes that are literally killing and locking up their own people, where people have no freedoms. It's just like, it's insane to me that a lot of the people that make these arguments are like, very pro-Israel Zionist type folks. But they're still saying these ridiculous things. And so anyway, I think we only have 10 minutes left. I wanted to also bring up, because there's another video I wanted to react to. We won't have time to get to it. And maybe next week, if you can all remind me, I don't know. It's this one here. Why is one man always blamed for everything wrong with America? It's a How History Works and How Money Works channels. It's the same dude that makes both of these channels. It's about Reagan. It's about Ronald Reagan. So, but there's another guy that has been on my radar. And it's because his channel has been blowing up lately. And that is Professor Jang. Have you heard of this guy? Professor Jang of the channel Predictive History. Professor Dave recently reacted to him and, was talking trash about him. I don't know much about this guy, but I've had people say, hey, you should check this guy out. So the first time I came across one of his videos was about 6 months ago. It got recommended to me. And my first impressions of him were, okay, this is a bit over the top. He's a bit sensationalist. I looked up his credentials, and yeah, I mean, he in fact does teach at a school, I believe a secondary school in China, in Beijing specifically, to students. He teaches to them in English. He actually has real students. They've been on camera before, but he just posts his lessons as if he's teaching his students to YouTube, and they get hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. He doesn't have a degree in history. In fact, he only has a bachelor's in, I believe it's English literature. So that was a bit of a red flag as well. I mean, come on. I have a master's degree in history. That doesn't mean I know a lot about history. That just means that perhaps you would be more likely to listen to me than Professor Jang about history speculation. But the thing that the reason why he's been getting so much attention is that he got a couple predictions correct. Like people are cherry picking that he's got a couple predictions correct. Like he said that. So the first one was that Trump would get elected in 2024, which that really wasn't that big of a prediction, I think. The second is that Trump would get the United States in a war with Iran. So he did predict that. You can go back and watch old videos. That's impressive. I predicted that the United States would invade Venezuela. I mean, okay, whatever. In fact, I have a whole bingo card of predictions. And in the past, I mean, actually, in my video I released about experts a few months ago, yeah, I mean, I think that we should be listening more to people who predict the future accurately. I think one of the best ways to establish yourself as an expert in any field is to make clear predictions. And then if those predictions happen, then more people should listen to you. However, there's a lot of people on the internet in particular that make a bunch of predictions. I'm talking like they make hundreds of predictions, and people freak out when they get one of those predictions correct. I mean, it's bound to happen. You throw enough spaghetti at the wall, some of it's bound to stick, right? That's what I just think that if he was getting more predictions correct, then I would be more likely to take him seriously. However, I don't know much about geopolitics. I don't know much about, especially like foreign relations between certain countries in the world right now. Like, I'm very American focused with my own expertise, like I mean, American political history is my bread and butter. So I did find a video he made about the American Revolution. So I was going to watch some of this to see like, okay, how does he teach this stuff to his class? Because I haven't really watched that much of his stuff. Have I ever heard of Damon Cassidy? Is he the economist? The British economist? I think, if so, he's been recommended to me as well. I've watched a couple of his videos. The Simpsons effect, right? Yeah, that's another good way to put it. The Simpsons made so many ridiculous predictions that, yeah, some of them actually did become true, but all the other ones didn't become true. So if you're going to make hundreds of predictions, you better be getting a certain percentage of those correct, not just like one or two of them. I think, yeah, I don't know if when he records these, he's actually talking to students, but he does legit teach students at this secondary school in Beijing. So, oh, okay. I'll check him out. Maybe I don't know who that is. We're just going to watch a little bit here because I don't have much time. But this is from a few months ago. And again, this is Professor Chang's video about, it's Su-Shin Chang is his name, about the American Revolution.
We are discussing the American Revolution today. So to review what we've done so far, after the defeat of Napoleon in 1815, there are now 4 major civilizations that are competing against each other for world domination. Last class, we did the British. Today, we'll do the Americans. Next week, we'll do the Russians and the Germans. Okay, so the Americans. When you think of America, there's a very famous quote from Oscar Wilde, who is a English playwright, novelist, humorist. And he said, "America is the only country that went from barbarism to decadence, but civilization in between." Okay, so he meant this as a joke. So what did he mean by this? This is a question we will discuss today. And what I will show you is that America, in many ways, it was designed as the anti-civilization. The founding fathers of America recognized the failings and problems of civilization and designed a new form of government based on Enlightenment principles in order to redeem humanity from the prejudices, the atrocities of civilization. Okay, so that's the argument we will look at today. All right, so the history of the Americas, it begins when the Europeans, led by the Spanish, start to interact with the New World. So the Spanish, starting in 1492, they will come and conquer the Aztecs, the Mayans.
I mean, the history of the Americas starts with the first human beings to settle on both continents, but okay.
And the Incas. And they will establish basically plantation economies where the Spanish are extracting resources, primarily gold, silver, from the Americas. They will also establish sugar plantations on the islands of the Caribbean, and they will man it with slaves from Africa as well as other places. And this is extremely profitable for the Spanish. So of course, the English, the French, and the Dutch Republic.
What other places are they getting slaves from in the 1500s other than Africa? I guess, Native Americans were enslaved as well, but they did not prove as useful.
They want to get in on the action, okay? And at first, they start to smuggle resources into the New World, and they engage in piracy. In 1588, the English Navy defeats the Spanish Armada, and this opens up the New World now for the Europeans to come and colonize it, okay? The problem, though, is that the Spanish control the best parts of the New World. And so everyone else is stuck with North America. And in North America,
the best parts, I don't know how you define that. I mean, the English were making plenty of money from cash crops like tobacco. The French were making plenty of money through the fur trade and just lots of resources throughout all of North America, not just... In fact, you could make the argument that a lot of the areas the Spanish controlled were not ideal because they were in tropical locations where you had hurricanes, you had mosquitoes that carried very dangerous diseases. So I'm not sure why he's saying that.
There's quite a few problems. First of all, the weather's very cold. Okay, so it's not hospitable to.
We have fire. We have fire. Like some of the most prosperous parts of the world are in areas that have a colder climate.
Colonization. Second problem is that you have lots of Native Americans in North America who are extremely violent. They are used to freedom, and they will fight to the death. At this time in history,
every society at this time was violent. Every society almost. You could probably find an example, a counter example, but that was the exception to the rule.
The tallest, strongest people in the world are actually the Native Americans.
Tallest, strongest people
North
in the
America.
World? Okay.
Also, you have lots of diseases that are problematic for the Europeans. So the Europeans spent a lot of time, basically decades, in trying to figure out how to best.
The diseases were much more problematic for the natives, which European diseases wiped out as much as 90% of all Native Americans.
Colonize North America. So there are three major nations that are trying to colonize North America. You have the French, and what they will do is they will establish the fur trade in Canada and in the Midwestern United States. They will basically trade with the natives to bring fur back to Europe. And this is a great deal for both the natives and the French. The Dutch come in, and they will establish colonies called New Amsterdam. This is today New York City. So the Dutch tried to establish colonies as well. The people who are most successful at establishing colonies are the British. And a lot of
the English. The Swedes also tried to settle colonies. And St. Augustine's on your map. That's the Spanish. So
it is because it is a very grassroots, very bottom-up movement. So the first major colony for the British is Jamestown, named after James I of Britain. And this is not a very successful colony at first, but they persist. The most successful colony is actually Boston. What makes Boston unique at this stage in North American history is that it is established by a company, the Massachusetts Bay Company, that has a charter from the English Crown. Also, they bring in family.
Jamestown was also established by a private company to make money.
Please, into this area. So before it was basically men who came over. Now it's families who come over. And then
that started with the Puritans.
Third of all, the people who come over are Puritans. Puritans, as we discussed previously, they believe in the importance of literacy. Everyone has responsibility to read the Bible in order to interpret the command of God properly. And so Boston, from the very beginning, it's a literate society. It has schools, it has newspapers, it is very political, and it grows very, very fast. Also, if you look at Boston, it is perfectly situated between North America and England. And as England is industrializing, it requires raw resources, mainly agricultural products, from this area. Okay, so Boston grows rapidly because of all these factors. So in the year 1682, you can see that the eastern United States has been colonized by the British. Okay, the French are still in.
All right, well, this is an hour-long video, so we won't watch the whole thing here. But I will just say that maybe we will revisit this, Professor Chang. I think most of this information is perfectly fine. Like, perhaps he misspoke some about some of this stuff, but I do that, you know. Nobody's perfect. So I think where he gets himself into more trouble is where he makes predictions that are sensationalist and hyperbolic, and many of them kind of freak people out, but they don't actually come true. So I think what we need to really do when we focus on this dude, Professor Chang, is like, maybe next time we'll see what is he predicting specifically, and we'll make sure we document all of that really well. And then 6 months later, we'll revisit him and say, hey, what specific predictions did he say that actually came true? Which ones did not come true? I have a feeling he probably, he's just saying a bunch of stuff, and maybe one of the things he says is going to come true, but I don't know. He's a controversial figure to some, although he does have a very passionate audience. And like I said, one of the fastest growing YouTube channels as far as like educational content over the past few months. So yeah, anyway, we're over an hour here. So I was talking too long about Mr. Beast. I hope you have a good weekend. Thanks for being here. Is anyone have a last minute questions class? Giant humans conspiracy? I don't know. Does he? Andre the Giant existed. Yeah. I think this guy fits pretty squarely under your experts video criticisms. He has a lot of high level summaries of things, but little depth. I mean, okay, I say the same thing about my content. The vast majority of my content is just explainer videos that are meant to be an introduction to concepts or events. I don't dig that deep very often. When I do dig deep, though, like, yeah, I'm busting out lots of sources, and I'm going to lots of different historians and primary sources, and often with my presidential biography videos, I go deeper. On some events, I've gone deeper, but overall, the vast majority of my stuff is just introduction, general knowledge type explainer videos. And I don't really specialize in anything other than American political history. But even then, there are plenty of people that know way more about it than I do. So I'm not about here just I'm not going to pretend like I know what's exactly going to happen in the future. And this guy saying he uses game theory to predict the future. Okay, well, I'll throw out predictions, I guess, but I have no reason to believe that any of my predictions are going to become true, because nobody can predict the future. Even the smartest people have a hard time with that. I think at the end of the day, we need to make sure we're skeptical of people like this who think they have answers. They think they have all the answers about the future. Overconfidence. Especially when it's somebody who just has like some random teacher who has an English literature degree, just be careful of that. What's gas in Kansas? Hey, let us know in the chat how expensive gas is in your neck of the woods. I just checked. It's I think the last one I saw was $3.19 a gallon. Which it was like $2.19 a gallon not that long ago. What about 10 tell us where you're from and how expensive gas is a gallon or liter. Joint specialist, where are you from? What state? 389 Rex down in Florida. 375 in on Long Island. That's cheaper than I thought it would be, Aaron. And good to see you, Aaron. Yeah. Okay, so 420 in Arizona, joint specialist. Yeah, you're at the highest so far. I imagine if you live in Hawaii or California, it's a lot. Okay, Puget Sound, $5.40 a gallon. Holy heck, this is wow. $5.40, and we're at $3.19 in Kansas. That is wild. Thank you, Costco. We're getting a Costco on Lawrence. I'm so excited. Anyone higher than $5.40 a gallon? I mean, I'm sure if you're in California or Hawaii, New Orleans is $3.49, $3.89 range. See, in New Orleans, you'd think would be cheaper. You got all that oil nearby, but nope, they're shipping it to other places in the world. More expensive than, I mean, yeah, EVs are, despite the tax credit going away. All right, well, hang in there out there. These are very difficult times. Obviously, we say this every week, but thanks for being here in our little corner of the internet. If you just joined us again, I do this every Friday at 9 a.m. Central. I react to videos. If you have stuff you want to send me, send it to me on social media, or there's a great spot on my Discord server, or my Patreon chat has a good area as well where you can suggest videos for me to react to. All right. Take care. Have a good weekend, everyone. Go Jayhawks.